When it comes to film, cinema, if you will, I am drawn when I talk about great movies to things that challenge conventions of what a film could be. Not your standard Hollywood fare, but things that challenge your notions of what the matching of moving pictures and sound could be. So when you think of movies that really do that, that really show you what is capable, I think of movies, for example, like Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life, challenging the ideas of time and space and our placement in the universe as a central theme to its plot. Or perhaps I'm not even talking about a plot, but how a movie can, despite lack of plot, lack of screenplay, or lack of actors, like say Koyanis Katsi, can still show you a world out of flux and a world in balance, perhaps even more powerfully than a movie that did have a plot or actors or a screenplay. Or maybe instead of like your standard David Attenborough voice overed nature films trying to show you the interesting alien world of the deep, but with your calm English grandfather making it perfectly interesting, perfectly safe for you. You lean towards the almost indescribable nature films of French artist Jean Painlevé. Even beyond that, you could think of a movie that would challenge your conventions of what a movie could be entirely, like Stan Brackage's films. We have many films created without even the use of a camera, like his seminal Mothlight. So when Dennis was talking to me about what was truly the best mid 2000s shitty motorcycle movie, many of you would go towards Biker Boys. But no, 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 my friends. We have a movie that gaslights you far worse and far more insidiously than Biker Boys could ever dare. We have a movie that predicted the Great Recession, that predicted the rise of gaslighting as a tool. A movie that completely flipped the idea of cause and effect on its head. We have a movie almost inclassifiable in its perfection. What is that movie, my friends? Than the 90-minute music video masquerading as a movie known as Torque. Tonight on BrotoGP, I'm joined by my great friend Rob, my excellent friend Dennis, and of course, I'm joined by my favorite person in the world, myself, BrotoKev. And we will be discussing in nuanced terms the truly incomprehensible greatness that is torque.
As Kev said, welcome to BrotoGP. We are back. We took a little break there. I think it's been a month since we recorded an episode, but it's okay. We had some shit go down. We needed to recover from the long end of last season and get ready for the new season. But until we start actually talking about motorcycle racing, as Kev has said, we're talking about the movie that defined Dennis's motorcycle riding as a whole, Torque. Dennis,
Yeah, yeah. It's my personal coming of age movie, kind of like Sharon Stone on Crossing Her Legs, Basic Instinct coming of age
Whoa,
movie.
dang.
Torque, Torque
Right
is
into
my
it. Right
Torque
into
is
it.
my motorcycle coming of age movie, and I'm a little bit scared and also excited about this episode because I don't know if we're actually gonna talk it up or eviscerate the hell out of this movie. But
it's
It,
undecided.
so So, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, listen to us talking for a few more minutes so we get the clicks and the views and the downloads and we can say we had this many listens. But rent this movie. This movie is so good that it's not for free on Netflix. Oh no, no, my friends. It's neither on Hulu nor is it on Amazon Prime. You must pay your hard-earned cash, the money that you slaved over in 2019, the era of growing inequality worldwide. You must take what little scraps you've been given and rent or purchase this movie. It's that good, it's that valuable, it's that important in our understanding of
I
the
did
world.
have to pay
This
$2.99 to be
movie
able to watch that movie for 48 hours.
Correct. Exactly. So I paid $2.99 to watch a movie that has no plot for the first 35 minutes. They make reference to a plot, but it's never actually explained. What I do know is that for no reason there's street signs that when cars fly past them, they spin and they say cars suck. I do know that this is a movie where Ice Cube, one of the main characters, says, "Stone cold serious as a heart attack, me and Johnny Law aren't on a first name basis." He literally says Johnny Law's first name. This is a serious movie or it's a comedy. I don't know. Is it a satirical like expose on the culture of 2004, 5, and 6's excess with no effect from this cause? I have no idea. But what I do know is both him and the main character of Fast and Furious live their lives a quarter mile at a time. They both say it in the movie. Yet she says in a very meta-analysis, it's the stupidest thing I ever heard, but he has no response. For he knows it is both stupid yet serious.
Should we give our listeners a quick synopsis? Dennis, can you do that? Can you break?
I believe a plot synopsis is in order, but don't think for a second that trying to boil down what doesn't exist is possible. For there is no plot. It makes you think there's a plot. This goes into the gaslighting thing. It makes you think there's a plot. There's no
Really?
plot. This is a 93-minute
I
music
was
video.
definitely fooled then. I thought there was a plot by the end of the film. I shouldn't use the
Yeah.
word film.
And just like
Right.
a little bit of a film trivia, just Cav keeps alluding to it. The director actually is a music video director. So this is really effectively just an extended music video. And music videos don't have plot. They just look
Who's
great
the director?
simply.
How do you know
Name-
this?
Joseph Kahn. Because I'm also, I mean, I'm
Yes.
not like a film nut like Kev, but I'm a
He
film nut
has
enough
the
to-
DVD. Show
And-
the DVD to the camera. The dude
DVD.
owns the movie.
And I have it on digital stream on demand.
Wait.
Boom. On demand, ultraviolet, dog.
So I can watch it on my phone anytime I want to watch
Oh my
it.
god! And you didn't let us
Right.
just hijack your stream, so we didn't have to pay the $2.99.
We're not that kind of bros, bro.
Before no. Here's the thing. Dennis is such a hardcore Torque fan that he's not willing to take money away from Joseph Kahn and
Yes.
whatever shitty whatever. Yeah, you must pay him for his work and his hard-earned money. Jamie Presley must be paid for the 6 lines that she produces in this movie.
Mhm.
Nickelback fading to black at the end of the movie, which we'll get to, must get their fucking checks for the rights for having the main theme song to the end of this movie. Nickelback. Unironically, Nickelback.
I feel like Nickelback was still popular.
Okay,
back then,
so-
but go ahead, Kev.
So to back this up on Nickelback, first we have to give our fans a semblance of the plot of this movie. There is a character. I don't know his name. I never
It's
caught
Ford.
it, despite the fact that I watched this movie 4
Ford.
times in the last.
That's his last
It's
name.
Ford. I don't know. They say. So here's the thing. This goes right into gaslighting. The movie starts, and the first like legible words you see say "cars suck," and the main character's name is Ford.
All right, yeah,
Meta.
super meta.
Totally meta. That's all you need
It's
to know.
so meta. Right. So it's gaslighting you within the first 3 minutes. Cars suck, but the person we must root for is named after like the car that basically invented the concept of the modern mass manufactured automobile. So Ford, at some point in the past, gets some motorcycles at his girlfriend's shop. He goes to move them, and despite the fact that it's not a car, it's a motorcycle, and you can just push them because no one in their garage. Look in Dennis's garage right now. He's got a speed triple, an MV goes to F4, and then an R1 behind him. If he needs to move those, he doesn't start them up. He simply puts them neutral and rolls them.
Yeah.
But Ford, in his epic wisdom, does what you would do if you needed to move a car. Despite the fact that they suck, he turns it on and they don't run. So he checks the gas tank, and inside the gas tank of these choppers with like 1.5 gallon tanks is a shitload of crystal meth.
Apparently, $1 million
So
worth
that
of
being
crystal
said,
meth, even though it's
a
a
million
vial
dollars
about
in
like
crystal
that big.
meth. Right, the best crystal meth ever. Walter White, eat your heart out. So he hightails it to Thailand and doesn't tell anyone, and he returns. So the movie begins with him returning to his area, which is like the high desert of California, Southern California. Many references to Inglewood, but it takes place mostly in the high desert
along
in
the
Southern
395.
California. Yes, exactly. So he returns and he's going to write his name. He's going to right the wrongs. He's going to come back and he's going to get the girl that he left for no reason, no explanation. He's going to do all the things he could have just done when he discovered the crystal meth. In the midst of that, we have some rival gang issues going on. Ice Cube runs a gang, I shit you not, called the Reapers.
Yep.
Okay. A Rough Rider video. Hold on, Microsoft is trying to tell me something because they don't want me talking about this because they're always trying to fucking censor me. So they're basically like a caricature of a Rough Rider video, right? Like they're the Reapers. It's not DMX. They casted Ice Cube for this, despite the fact that Ice Cube rode in 6.4s with hydros. They could have easily casted like, anyone like Master P, DMX, all of that. And he's every bit of a stereotype that you could imagine for mid 2004s and like act like no one. That's not a problem at all. And there's another rival gang, which of course is mulleted wearing racist white dudes who are selling the crystal meth. So Ford is caught in the middle of two rival gangs and their issues, and he's been set up. All the while, an FBI agent and his partner are chasing them. This FBI agent is Adam Scott. You may know Adam Scott as Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec.
Is
If you saw this movie, you would know that he was Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec because he's effectively the exact same character. Despite the fact that he runs the FBI Drug Task Force, he still has his big Ben Wyatt hair, exact same mannerisms, exact same like overly sarcastic tone, and his partner for no reason is a white chick in cornrows.
Is she white? I don't think
And
she's
they,
white, but
she
go on.
yeah, she's like my sister. She's like half and half, which is really
is that
loud.
guy still a twerp
I can say
wearing
that because that's
chucks
my
in
sister.
Parks and Rec too?
Ben Wyatt is the best character in Parks and Rec. I'm not going to get off topic, but he's amazing in Parks and Rec. He's the best character. Ben Wyatt
He's
is a
a very beautiful
superintendent.
man.
He's
Very
a beautiful man. He's not as beautiful as Dennis, but he's quite beautiful. So this movie begins, and we go from scene to scene where, like, it's just like a music video. Everything's a party. Everywhere they go is a huge party. Now, I rode sport bikes in the mid 2000s. Right, I had a Ducati, I had a CBR 600. Like I rode, I never went to like any rave music video shoots with Ice Cube. That's on me, I suppose. But this movie basically is explaining that if you ride motorcycles in Southern California in 2004, your life is one never-ending party, brawl, fight scene. I mean, it's like Roadhouse, basically. Like it's this, like everywhere they
Well, you
go
didn't
is
live
Roadhouse.
between Inglewood and Lone Pine. You were much further north in California, so I feel like it might have been a geographical problem.
Correct. Oh, okay. You're saying it's geography.
Entirely different motorcycle culture.
Yeah, pretty
basically.
much.
We're a bit
And
more
I was a
civil
little.
up here.
I was
More
No, I
civilized,
was
for
still
sure.
in Northern California too at that point, and had just got a motorcycle. I wasn't in the scene either.
Rob was still still driving his Mustang.
That too.
So, this
His
movie
Ford
is
Mustang.
right. So I watched this movie like 3 times in the past 2 days.
Got to get that
Right,
$2.99 worth.
And to show you how good this movie is, it was so like I had to get my $2.99 worth. And by the way, I tried to screen capture multiple pictures for this,
No.
but iTunes won't let you do that shit. It screen captures solid black because the movie is so good. You must pay for this.
Yes.
Right. So I feel like I need to step back for a second because we're kind of talking about. We need to set the stage. When you first meet Ford, he is riding an Aprilia RSV Mille in bright orange leathers that say Carpe Diem. Okay, this movie's bikers are like what a little kid thinks bikers are. Like like a 12-year-old
Or
thinks
a
like
25-year-old Dennis who's just getting into
You
motorcycles.
were you were
correct,
impressionable
right.
back then,
So
Dennis.
right. So if you
Very
want to
impressionable.
know about the gaslighting effect of this movie, notice that you see the cars going. It starts with two cars drag racing, and then a motorcycle comes up. And that motorcycle is an RSV Mille, famously World Superbike winner with Troy Corser. Noriyuki Hara rode it. And a booming V-twin Ducati killer, and it's clearly 100% a GSXR exhaust note.
And, and he
The
clearly
whole time.
grabs the
Now,
front brake
No.
and the rear tire slides.
yes. So that comes later. First there he wheelies going through them, and like the wheelie creates a sonic boom that shakes the whole camera. I don't know why he's trying to race this guy or why, because he says I had to be somewhere, but he's just going to a random diner to meet some friends.
To get a picture off the wall of a girl.
Right, to get a picture off the wall because he needs this picture for later in the scene to hand to a woman who says that you got everything you came for, and he's like, no, I came. Now I don't know if he came for the picture or if he came for her, but I feel like he could have just said that and didn't need to nearly die in the middle of having like a battle with two cars.
We digress.
Anyways, I'm getting off topic. Right. Dennis, would you care to chime in, Dennis, on some of the more nuances of the early on plot of this film?
I think the only defense I kind of want to offer to this movie is this
It
is
doesn't need to be
really
defended. It's a perfect film.
that's what I'm trying to get at. But
It stands on its own merit.
Well, I'm gonna say that this is the only way to make a movie about motorcycles, especially sport bikes. Sport bikes by nature are excessive. They're just excess, and this is the only way to do a movie where the plot vehicle, pun intended, are motorcycles. That is the plot. You just go from point A to point B using motorcycles. That's the effective plot of it.
Right. I actually think that the plot of this movie is far more insidious to it. So if we go back to 2004, 2005, if you rode, you remember the days where Sears Point would have so many people at an AMA event. It was chock full. Lakefield, Highway 37 was shut down. I know I live right over here. It was a madhouse. They were updating 600s every 2.5 years. It was a grand time of excess. Fabulous was making videos about Escalades, and everyone needed to have the biggest, the baddest. The Hayabusa was going 200 miles an hour. The ZX-10R was going 206 or whatever it was. This was a movie that celebrated excess with no downside to the fullest. This movie gaslights you so hard into thinking that ground effects and like crazy bikes and no care in the world and the party's just gonna go on. It's a Great Gatsby and it's roaring 20s and the party's gonna go on forever. There's no like there is no downside to anything that happens in this movie. Like Rob said, they just fuck up one bike and they get another one. Like there's no consequence to any action whatsoever. If you're riding a motorcycle and you turn it in the desert, your TT600 Triumph just becomes a dirt bike. You suddenly have knobbies and 7 inches of travel. There is no consequence to your actions of reckless endangerment. If you
I actually
ride
said
around,
that point before we hit the record button, so we should probably expound on it even.
that's what I said. But we're in the pre-record. I know Rob doesn't like us to talk about the pre-record stuff.
Even
but whatever.
towards the end of the film, the main character Ford rides a jet powered motorcycle called the Y2K, and some of you maybe have seen videos or images of it, and just absolutely destroys it. Of course, he does the sonic boom like Kev has already been talking about again, and like wrecks half a town. No consequences. Like just destroyed a one-off motorcycle. No care in the world.
But isn't that pretty much representative of how a person who gets on any kind of motorcycle feel? Like once you're on it, you're moving, just no care, for any kind of consequences. It's as if you can't be
But
touched
that's
when
the
you're
thing
riding.
where like that's true of like the consequences of like of speeding, of getting tickets, of like maybe you don't even worry about wrecking the bike. But the second you do wreck the
Hmm.
bike, if you're a motorcyclist, it's the end of the world. Right? Like that's where I think the departure is the consequences are real.
That's only until the insurance. And that's only until the insurance money comes in, so you can go shop for your
Shit,
next
that's
bike.
a very good point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There is a scene on this movie where they are racing their bikes through a grove of palm trees and battling and fighting each other, and then they eventually are Ice Cube and Ford are battling with their bikes on top of and inside of a train. Ice Cube completely destroys, biffs, and crashes, and so does Ford, and there is no injury whatsoever. The unrealistic nature of this is down to the fact that they are in helmets talking to each other. There's a scene where they're going 95 miles an hour on the dirt on an RC51, and they're talking to each other. They're wearing helmets. If any of you know that, like you pull up to the stop sign, like, and you and your riding buddies, everyone has that one guy that knows exactly how to communicate with his hands. He's like, and everyone knows what he fucking said. And the reason that guy exists is because you can't actually hear or speak wearing a helmet or riding around in motorcycles. And yet, the whole movie, I would say at least a solid third of the dialogue is them talking to each other at speed through their helmets. And they're not wearing HJC helmets with chatterboxes and shit. Remember those bad boys you just stuck on the side of your helmet, the chatterbox? They're just having conversations. They're being chased by. There's multiple scenes where they're riding around and they pull out a gun with their right hand and are shooting. Like, you're not giving it gas. You're
I
just
totally
shooting.
missed
Like
that.
I
Uh,
right, there like
I'm glad you
multiple
brought up the
scenes.
chatterbox though, because Ice Cube straight up gets a call, pulls the chatterbox out of his
Uh-huh.
pocket, attaches it to the helmet,
Click.
and
Yes.
answers the call like it's a fucking walkie-talkie. Like oh
Right.
how did he hear the call ringing? Either way.
Right.
Vibrate,
Apparently-
man.
apparently
Vibrate. It was on
chatterboxes-
vibrate.
Right. It was on vibrate. Right. Clear. Right. Exactly.
Further excess later in the movie.
So-
Do you want to get into the motorcycle wheelie fight?
The
Uh,
motorcycle
yeah.
sword fight? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the subtext of this movie is Ford is trying to clear his name. Excuse me. The subplot. Ford is attempting. One of the reasons he wants to clear his name is to get with his chick, despite the fact that the movie ends with them just going to Mexico, which is their original idea for what they're gonna do. But he wants to stay and clear his name. So none of the events of the movie are
It's like Raiders of the
consequential.
Lost Ark. Yeah.
Okay. It's Raiders. Yeah, no, it's like Game of Thrones. Actually, nothing like this is a whole side plot. But Robert, like, I don't want to get into that. Yes, it's like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Nothing that happens actually affects the final outcome of the movie because his two friends say, "Why don't we just bail and head to Mexico?" And that's exactly what they end up doing. After having killed, like, it's actually worse because he doesn't actually clear his name because they like kill and blow up FBI agents and stuff, but like he ends up going to Mexico. So, but what he wants to do is get this girl, right? And this girl ends up having a fight in a battle with his main antagonist girl, Jamie Presley, by the way,
Hmm.
on motorcycles, in which they literally wheelie fight each other. Lost in all of this is that every other scene has Pepsi or Mountain Dew in the background because it's the greatest product placement like you've ever seen. It's so blatant.
Because it's a music video.
Fucking amazing. But they watch this movie. When you watch, because it's a music video. When you watch this movie, there's going to be a scene where they are racing their sport bikes through groves of palm trees, and you're going to think, "Wow, this can't get any crazier." Then they're going to have a motorcycle chase scene on top of a moving train, and you're going to think, "Wow, This can't get any crazier. And then Ford is going to ride inside of the train. And you're going to think, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like, what is happening? There's not a single scene in this movie that's even resembles reality. And then you get to the scene where Jamie Presley fights like knockoff Angelina Jolie from Gone in 60 Seconds, and they fight on motorcycles, like pulling wheelies and then fighting with the front tires and sliding. Like they're jousting like this is 11/24, and they're like fighting for the hand of like a virgin maiden. Like they're jousting.
It's bike
That's
food.
exactly what it is.
It's bike fu, right?
So I feel like we should kind of bring it back to a solid point. So you've contested that this is the greatest movie ever, or something close to that. I would actually say that this movie is straight up responsible for the downfall of motorcycles in the mid 2000s. The thing that's missing for me is any care about the motorcycle whatsoever, right? Like I'm gonna compare this to Fast and the Furious. In Fast and the Furious, yeah, I mean, because the comparison was slightly already made because they lived their lives a quarter mile at the time. And there's even the same scenes about like someone hits the NOS and you go inside the engine, like that happened in the beginning of the movie too. It tried to be the exact same movie, but in Fast and the Furious, like the dude cared about his car. He spent a lot of time and effort. There was a cool montage. They built up the car. They go racing, and you know it's huge if you race for pink slips and you lose your car, and then someone comes after you, right? Like when Dom like destroys his car running into the train, like it's like holy fuck, I can't believe you destroyed that car. In this movie, the culture of caring about the motorcycle and actually being a motorcyclist, it's not there. So it just shows everyone that motorcyclists...
Right. It's all image. It's all the idea that, yeah, exactly. There is no care for the motorcycles. There is no...
and how can we have a culture that loves motorcycles, likes motorcycle racing, likes everything positive about the sport and about the lifestyle if all you're doing is throwing away bikes and getting the insurance money?
Right. Which is... literally 2004 in a nutshell. Everyone I knew crashed their bike, scratched the frame. A scratch on the frame instantly means it's totaled. You get the insurance money, and then you trade your 600 in for an R1. I think literally the R1 that's behind Dennis right now, if you were to actually see the R1 he has. I think we all knew someone in 2004, right, that had that R1. Like, but yeah, no, this movie is... I don't want to say responsible, but this movie was shouting at the top of its lungs, what are we doing, motorcyclists? What are we doing, American motorcyclists? We are, it is nothing but a prop. It is nothing but a faux lifestyle to look interesting. We care not about the motorcycle. We care nothing about the money. It's just living fast and loose with no interest or care whatsoever. It's all flash, no substance. It's excess for the sake of excess. So this movie is... every bike is tricked out, every bike is done to the hilt, but yet at the same time, these people have not a care in the world about their motorcycles whatsoever. They don't care. They fuck them up. They damage them. They do terrible things. They're, like... what the bikes do are so disconnected from reality because it's not about actually being true to motorcycle culture, but it's about celebrating excess within itself. It's actually a meta commentary on the absurdity of the culture at the time, and what they're doing is pushing the absurdity to such a grotesque limit that it's like looking in the mirror at yourself, like drunk late at night, stuck in the club, wondering like, what are we doing? What am I doing with myself? What is motorcycling becoming? What is it doing? It is the grotesque reflection of narcissist looking into the water in the Greek myth, and so obsessed with his image that he cares not about food, that he cares not about his friends, that he cares not about his family, and he actually self-destructs. And then, like the true narcissist myth, in Hades himself, he still is obsessed with viewing his own self-image within the river Styx, that we're all convinced that DMG is going to save AMA, as if AMA needed saving to begin with, and we're all thinking that's going to be what actually fixes things. It's it's so much more than responsible for the downfall. It's a meta prediction of the downfall 3.5 years in the future. Now, all of you right now are going to listen and be like, "Isn't this the same thing you said in the Pierre Turbolaunch episode?" Well, guess what, shit fuckers? It actually turns out I'm super right about all of that. How do I know? But the photographer from the fucking Ducati shoot himself messaged us and said, "Hey, Kevin's like pretty right about what Pierre was doing with his fucking images." So vindication, all you shitheads that sent me fucking things on Instagram saying like I'm wrong and the bike was just ugly.
Pierre said himself, according to his photographer friend, that
Yes.
He listened to the episode and he liked not listening to another hater.
Me and Pierre is like this, son.
Dennis, you were giving us a pretty big face palm there. I feel like you have something to inject into that.
No, that was actually far from a facepalm. What it is I'm coming to a sudden realization how you guys are totally emotionally fucking me up with your dissertations, because you're right. The total absolute disregard for motorcycles in this movie is just like moto blasphemous, and yet somehow this movie may or may not have succeeded in getting me to buy an Aprilia RSV Mille after I watched it.
Right. What's
So it's
interesting
like-
is that you bought an Aprilia RSV Mille, despite the fact that in this movie, that Aprilia RSV Mille has 7 inches of travel on its knobbies with an inline 4
But
exhaust.
only
No.
once they get to the
And
dirt.
I thought when I bought it that that's what it would actually do.
Right. This movie gaslighted you so hard that despite the fact that that was not reality whatsoever, you are right now still thanking that thing.
I still love that thing.
You
That
are
is my
thanking
dream bike.
you are literally thanking it for lying to you so hard that you went out and spent your hard-earned money.
Just like that 30 Seconds to Mars song, it was a beautiful lie.
Right. Correct.
Oh man, Kev, we've do we have a point to close this out on?
We want to close out. I have so much more to talk about Torque. Like, we haven't even got to the fact that the crux of this whole movie is a guy is murdered with a motorcycle chain.
Yes, no, of course. Ice-T's brother, or
Right,
not Ice-T, Ice Cube's brother. Oh, God.
Ice-T.
Sorry.
Well, that's Ice Cube's brother. Ice-T. Dad joke.
That is
sorry, I had
a
to
terrible
throw
joke,
it in.
Dennis. Dennis, what's your new favorite dad joke? When does a joke become a dad joke?
That's no, I'm not ready to
Oh,
use it yet.
all right.
I'm saving that for a special occasion. Maybe in an actual GP
All right,
episode.
all right. No, yes, Ice Cube's little brother Junior is murdered with a chain that was cut off of the other drug gang member's motorcycle. I don't know what's your commentary on this. I feel like there's just a plot device that really had nothing going on for it.
It's not a plot device. It's that we're hanging ourselves by our own fucking gourds, Doc. Motorcycle industry is going to kill itself. It's keeping an unsustainable development cycle, an unsustainable debt cycle, an unsustainable racing cycle. It is literally a metaphor for the self-destruction that was the motorcycle industry in 2004, 5, and 6. It's blaming everyone but ourselves for it. Look at AMA. All we did was blame the rules. And we blame the rule. The problem is the rules. And then the problem is that people are cheating. And the problem is there's not enough classes. And the problem is that it doesn't allow satellite bikes. When we all know the problem was Ben Spies and Matt Mladen were too fucking good to be racing in National Series. It was as clear as the reflection in the mirror for us, but we looked at everything around what could be the problem. It's the same thing. We're hanging ourselves by our own motorcycle gourds or our chains in this instance. It's literally explaining to us that we have an unsustainable excess going on right now, but no one wants to get off the train, so to speak, unless you jump off of it with your motorcycle. Hell yeah, America.
Kevin. Kevin, do you know why I like Christopher Nolan movies like The Prestige, Memento, even
Because they
Inception?
don't have fucking credits?
No, because they are
Not a single
so
credit in any of his movies. I'm not joking. Every movie just starts. There's no credits. The
right.
beginning of any of his movies.
Nolan movies are so layered that if you watch it again, after all the revelations of the first viewing, if you watch it again the second time around, you're actually watching a different movie. And I feel like you just Christopher Nolan the fuck out of Torque for me. Like now I gotta
Right.
watch it and see all the symbolisms and like hidden meanings or and
There's
allegories. It's gonna blow away.
exactly right. So I know we're not really talking about like a review of the film. There's a lot of other things we could review. We could review the fact that it unironically uses Kid Rock multiple times in the movie. Like we didn't even talk about the fact that the Jamie Presley blonde chick fight takes place to Static X. It has the sweetest, most bro soundtrack ever, right? Like we all know we're talking about with bro rock. Like before Nickelback was a joke and they were actually huge and everyone loved them. They're in it. Like that's the whole thing. Nickelback, you think Nickelback is the featured artist? We got Nickelback. We got Static X. We got Hoobastank. My dog, Hoobastank. You know who's not on the soundtrack? One of the main characters who happens to be a huge musician, Ice Cube.
I didn't actually notice that.
Right. And they know that he's a huge musician because at one point in the movie, he breaks the fourth wall and says, fuck the
Fuck the
police.
police.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. This movie is trying to explain to you that it's on the nose far more than you think. There are multiple fourth wall breaks. They talk about live my core life a quarter mile at a time. How stupid is that? Cars suck. Fuck the police. This movie is screaming to tell you it's so much more than a film.
I really thought it was accidental.
So biker
I didn't.
No, so Biker Boys, like, here's the reason, right? Like, most people said Biker Boys is clearly the superior film. No, it's not, because Biker Boys is trying to be like motorcycles are awesome. Torque is trying to tell you there's a huge, massive problem with motorcycles and none of y'all want to see it. And now we are living it right now. Kyle Wyman messaged me like, how can we get more people to watch racing? Blah, 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 right? Long fucking Kyle KWR, what's up? Riding that Ducati, But like, the problem is that Torque let all of us know in person there's a huge problem and we all turned away. No, none of us wanted to hear it. None of us wanted to see it. It had to be so upfront. It was screaming at us subtext. They snuck this movie through telling you it was supposed to be for bikers, but this movie was for bikers to look in the mirror and think, what the fuck are we doing, and is this sustainable?
And we kind of ignored it. Completely ignored it.
Right. We all ignored it.
Damn it. If only. Hindsight.
God dang it.
Kevin. Thank you, Captain Hindsight.
It's not Captain Hindsight,
he
right?
Comes around eventually.
Right. So, in retrospect, we could talk about how this movie has a joust scene. We could talk about how the bikes inexplicably change in and out of dirt bike mode. We could talk about how we race on top of trains, inside of trains, in front of trains, and jumping trains. We could talk about how the very end of this movie has two guys looking at a helicopter-powered jet engine bike with a carbon fiber frame. Things that we all know, even in 2004, aren't good. We all knew that carbon fiber frames sucked. They're too rigid. They're not reliable enough. We know that. We know that a jet engine has no business in a motorcycle for a variety of reasons. How they warm up, how they handle the ways that they would work. Like, we all know that carbon fiber frames and jet engines actually is super shitty, and you don't want that. right? What you want is a twin spar aluminum frame with an inline or V4, like high revving, non super. You know what I mean? Like you want a MotoGP bike. We all know those are actually the fastest bikes. Yet the end of this movie has two dudes stare at a bike called a Y2K and say, "This is going to be the dope part, the totally unrideable machine," which is just sounds cool. Like, remember the Dodge Tomahawk?
No, actually.
Yeah.
So the Dodge Tomahawk
Yeah.
was a bike that had four wheels that they told you it
Mhm.
was a motorcycle. It had four wheels.
Yeah.
Speaking of gaslighting, they simply kept saying motorcycle, not unlike Osama bin Laden and Iraq. Osama bin Laden and Iraq. They would say four wheels, motorcycle, four wheels, motorcycle, and they stuck a Dodge Viper,
Oh,
stuck
the
four
Viper
wheels on it, and
motor.
said, "This is the dopest bike in the world." And everyone thought it was so awesome. It was totally unrideable. And at one point, they had like the AMA Grand National Champion for flat track try to ride it, and he said it was totally unrideable. And yet everyone drooled over this thing because it was the 24-inch Dayton Spinners of its time. It was excess for the sake of excess. So the finality of this movie is Ice Cube and Ford standing over an unrideable, clearly inferior motorcycle whose existence is entirely predicated on saying what it is, not what it can do. And that's like the coup de, like that's the piece de la resistance of the movie. Is this guy gets in the bike and he goes 200 miles an hour in 10 seconds through city streets and rides an unrideable bike that makes no sense. They explain the bike to you, and you know as a motorcycle fan this scene makes no sense, and yet we all continue watching it
You've
in
been talking
awe.
about it now for about 5 minutes, so it hooked somehow.
Yes. uh, it worked, right?
And I still want to own one myself
You
somehow.
you
Yes.
also do own motorcycles to put them in your living room, so I think it'll be fine in your house, Dennis. Like you'll be okay.
Right. And this is and this actually brings me full circle to
Like
why
the chain
I'm
and
doing
sprocket
this
fingerprint
episode.
bit.
We'll get to that. But don't so Dennis purchases motorcycles to put them in his living
No,
room.
he rides them into the ground too, and then puts them in his living room.
No. Because Dennis was fostered and his motorcycle interest and obsession and outlook was created with this movie. Dennis is Torque. Torque is Dennis. He has bikes set up in his living room. He has motorcycles for the sake of owning them. He has bikes. He just said, "I can't. I want one of those Y2Ks so bad." He knows it's not rideable. He knows it makes no sense, and he knows that it can't do any of the things that they claim it can do. But I want one. This movie created
He did
Dennis.
tell us that, and we
I
Yes.
feel like you guys actually duped me into thinking this is a Torque episode when it's actually a Dennis.
it's now a
It's-
Dennis episode.
Right.
No.
So it is a Dennis analysis.
Oh my god.
You guys all thought this was a Torque episode, and that we would talk about how meta Torque actually was. But we're going so farther meta into it that we are actually discussing Dennis himself on this movie and how Torque has gaslit him into thinking motorcycles is something that it is not for the better part of 15 years.
So are we gonna title this
You know
Dennis is Torque? Torque is Dennis.
Exactly.
Fine. I'm cool with that. But you know what? Actually, if that's true, I'm okay with that because before motorcycling, my hobby was filmmaking, video editing. Pretty much making a music video. I would put music on any kind of video footage that I would shoot. So in some ways, you're right. This movie is a microcosm of younger Dennis as a filmmaker and adult Dennis.
He just
as a
went even more
motorcyclist.
meta on himself. Holy shit.
No, because I mean, like mind blown, and now I have full clarity, and you guys are right.
Goddamn. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
we should round it out there. I think that's it. Torque is Dennis.
So Dennis is Torque, Torque is Dennis. All fun and no play makes Dennis a dull boy. All fun and no play makes Dennis a dull boy.
And if you
That-
can find a good specimen or a used specimen of the MTT turbine bike, let me know. Shoot us an email,
We're gonna have to try really hard
Correct.
for that internet money for you to get that jet turbine motorcycle.
Yes.
I'll
We
crash.
can't
one of
even
these
get
bikes
me
and
a
get the
Zoo. We
insurance
can't
to
even
pay
get
for
me
it.
a Zuma, and now we want to get Dennis
Oh,
a jet
I
powered
don't want to
motorcycle.
say this right now because I'm not kidding. 2 weeks ago, I almost did because somebody from Z2 Track Days was selling a 50cc Yuma with an 80cc kit for 900
Boom.
bucks, street legal.
Right.
And I was like, oh, should I buy this for Kevin with the BrotoGP money without telling the other guys? I
Yes.
didn't want it to seem
I
like
would have been
nepotism.
fine with it.
Yes.
Well,
If you had surprised me on air with a Zuma, that'd been pretty dope.
Well, a friend bought it, so it's still within the family. So when he's done with it, you
For
get
cheaper.
Yes,
I know how you roll.
exactly.
Right.
Make
So, in conclusion, in 2004, one of the greatest motorcycle movies ever created was made, Torque. It's not great because of its action, which is terrible. It's not great because of its plot, which is terrible. It's not great for its ode to motorcycles because they refuse to allow any motorcycle to have its correct,
anything.
exhaust note. Correct anything. The only motorcycle they give any reverence to whatsoever is the Y2K, the most unpractical, unrealistic motorcycle you could possibly have, and yet it's venerated at the end. It's pulled out like it's the fucking Mona Lisa behind this thing. It's presented to the world. Torque is an amazing film because as you look back on it now in retrospect, you think, wow, we were all fucking insane and everyone knew it, and yet we did not a goddamn thing about it. And now we all wonder what the fuck happened. What happened was Torque screamed at the top of its lungs to all of us, and yet, nay, we would hear none of it, and we would go on about our debt-filled, consumption-filled, excess-filled, hollow, substantive lives until the world would fall into significant economic chaos, and then we would all wonder, what the hell happened? You know what happened? Torque.
there. I'm gonna finish this off with a light at the end of the tunnel. Dennis turned out pretty good.
Well, so far, so far.
Self-deprecating. I knew you were gonna do that. All right, everyone. This is just us coming back from winter break. Obviously, we'll talk about motorcycle racing sometime soon. I think there's actually going to be more content about Dennis coming up. It won't be about movies though. So, and
Not those kind of movies.
Yeah, not those kind of movies. There were actually no references to anything involving titles of any kind in this, which is odd. But yeah. No, catch us in a week or two. Obviously, we have winter testing coming up. We're prepping for the 2019 season. Kev wants to branch out into other genres of YouTube and podcasting. So if you're on YouTube, like this video, give us a thumbs up. I tried some new recording stuff today, which is going to be interesting. I think the audio will be amazing. Please subscribe to our channel and tell your friends. If you're listening on iTunes or Google Play or SoundCloud or Spotify, tell all your friends and keep this going. Thanks for listening. Peace.